Okay, good day to do an air quality test right now. We have a smoke advisory again from wildfires. Our local rating is 7 out of 10 from Environment Canada, which is in the high risk. I am monitoring my indoor air quality with my laser particle counter. There's my current particle counts. That's 1/100th of a cubic foot. That's 0.5 microns on the left and PM 2.5 right here. So you can see my air is very clean. And that is not at the output of an air cleaner, it's on my desk where I breathe. So my air is like very clean. Here's my graph for the last 30 minutes from my logger software. And over the last 30 minutes, the maximum particle concentrations I had were about 300 parts per cubic foot, which is very good. And just to let you know, you have to add 2 zeros to this number to get to cubic feet, because they just don't put the extra zeros in because it's no space, I guess. So a reading of 3 on here on the graph would actually be 300. So always remember to add 2 zeros to this number to get to cubic feet. Anyway, this is the last 30 minutes. You can see our air is very clean. I got it that way on purpose, and the reason for that, even though we had forest fire smoke, is my negative air pressure box, which I've shown in other videos. I am sucking air in from outside, and it goes inside this box and comes out clean. How I did that is I have a fan just like this in the box, but a smaller one that sits on top of a HEPA filter like this and pulls the air through and cleans it. And because I'm drawing air in from outside, it is pressurizing my entire bedroom. And that helps to keep the dirty air out. A lot more so than just running an air cleaner by itself. You can see the air is pretty smoky, not as bad as it has been, but it's still noticeably smoky outside. So what I'm going to do today is I'm going to test my Meile Vacuum. What I'm going to do is I'm going to hook this Meile Vacuum up to this. Up to the venting outside, and I'm going to draw the air in from outside. And we're just going to get underway here. What I'm going to do is turn off my filters here, and we're going to put the Meile Vacuum sucking the air from outside instead of this fan. I don't have 3 hands, so I'm going to put the... Okay, as I was saying, this is my negative air pressure box here. And there's the hole in it, and you see by putting the fan and filter in here, it sucks the air in and creates negative air pressure, meaning it's sucking air in, a lot of air in. And here's what it looks like inside the box. So be very careful, there is so concentrated dirt in here. So it's just the fan and filter, you can see how dirty that is. So I'm going to be very careful with this. Okay, now there's no ventilation right now, so the air is clean, but it will get dirty very, very fast as soon as I turn off that pressure. You can see it already has. You can see the counts are already coming up. So I got to get this apparatus hooked in fast. What I built here is a piece of cardboard tubing here, and I'm going to wrap it around and pull the air in from outside. So just give me a moment, and I'll get this going. Alright, kind of rig this up here with a plastic bag and an elastic. I don't know how well it's going to work. I haven't done this experiment before. But we're going to pull the air in from outside, and it's going to go through the vacuum, like so. Get this hose out of the way. And here is my Meile S5 Vacuum. I know a lot of the people do tests, and they just put their particle counter right on the filter, but that's testing the filter, but it's not testing the vacuum as a whole, because a lot of vacuums got air leakage and dirty air that you're sucking up from the floor or whatever will just bypass the filter and go around it and come out through the back hose area and whatever. But I've never done this test like this with this Meile Vacuum, this little experiment. It's not exactly scientific, but this is my bedroom, it's not a laboratory. Anyway, we're going to check what the particle counts are. As you can see from this graph, what's the latest reading right here? You can see where I shut it off. Here's where how low the particle counts were. Very, very low, 100 per cubic foot, 800. See, when I turned it off right here, 5100, 3700. See, right away you can tell that the positive air pressure does something, because the bad air is already starting to infiltrate from outside. See, it's spiking right there. That's right when I shut it off. Now I'm going to turn the vacuum on full power for a while. We're going to see how well this vacuum filters the air compared to HEPA filters that are basically sealed and filtering out everything. Now, it's not a total fair experiment because the fan in here is 150 CFM. I don't know what the CFM rating this thing will be sucking, but it will be less, so it will be less effective at positively pressuring. But by doing this, we're going to see how much this filters the air, see if it pollutes the air actually. And there's a full bag of dirt in here. It's an older HEPA filter with a very well used bag. So even if I don't run outside air, if I just run clean air, if this was leaking, it would still pollute the air dramatically. But we're going to test it versus wildfire smoke. Okay, we're going to turn it on right now, and we're going to see how well it works. I hope it doesn't suck the bag inside, but here we go. And we have a little helper fan here. We're actually going to turn that on, just to help the vacuum out just a bit. We have a little duct fan, helper fan here. It's going to like push air into the vacuum. And we are now sucking air in from outside. So we're basically using the vacuum to do what this fan was doing. And here's the Meile, what's going on there? Okay, here's the Meile S5. It's blowing air out. We're going to leave it run for a bit. What time is it here? It's basically almost 9 o'clock. Here's the particle counts. It is, yeah, 8:59, 9 o'clock, just say. And we're starting off with, I'm vision impaired, so that's why I use this, and that's why I have a hard time with this sometimes, but bear with me. Particle counts are about 5,000 per cubic foot. There's the number on the counter. And we're going to see what this thing does. We're going to give it some time. There we are, there's our next reading. And we're going to know right away if this thing's working, because if it wasn't, it would certainly, particle counts would certainly spike. And this particle counter is 0.5 microns, and a lot of the wildfire smoke is actually way smaller than this thing can read, into this quite a bit smaller. Don't know how long I should let this experiment go for. I don't want to burn out my vacuum because it's quite a bit of resistance there. And people always do this. I want to keep my thing rigged to the computer so I don't lose my data, but I'll just move the vacuum a bit. And this is a common test that people do. They run it over the input. This is not a very good test at all. I do it anyway, because everybody else does it with a counter. The vacuum is getting pretty hot, so you can see it's filtering pretty good. It's taking it down to virtually zero. But like I said before, that is from the filter. It's not measuring what could be coming out on the sides here. And even though I'm venting from outside, I'm pulling the air in from outside, the dirty, dirty air from outside. I don't even really have to do that, because inside this bag is billions of microscopic particles. If this vacuum was truly leaking, it would be polluting my air anyway. So the test is to see if the vacuum itself is polluting my air in my little bedroom. Have the door closed and it's sealed pretty good with carpet around. There's our particle counts. It's going to be a large video. It's going to be a big file size. That's why I'm only doing it in 720p. But you can see at 9 o'clock I turned it on, 5100. And see if the particle counts are coming down. Or staying the same. Even if they stay the same, that's pretty good. And then after, maybe I'll turn this helper fan on. I'll turn this little helper fan and basically vent unfiltered air into my room just to show you what happens without HEPA filtration. And the reason why I am doing these videos is primarily to help people with asthma or lung problems, or anybody that wants to breathe clean air. I know these videos will not get a lot of ratings or hits. And I'd like to dedicate this channel and these videos. This is one of the reasons I got into this, is because of this person right here. That is my dear mom and dad. Both are since passed away. Anyway, my poor mom died a slow, horrible death of emphysema, end-stage emphysema, in 2004. She was on home oxygen and suffered with it. So, before she died several years, I was happy to actually buy her an air cleaner much like this, which I know did help her, but it's kind of too late. Anyway, we're still pulling that air from outside. And I sealed the windows as best I can with weather stripping here, and I taped it up. And all that's here is a piece of wood with a 5-inch hole cut. This is my prototype of cleaning my air, and I just kind of stuck with it. I'm sure there's all kinds of other ways to do it, but... And I do have a little filter right here that is filtering the air, but it's not going to affect my test at all. And for that, I'm using this stuff here. I'll show you. For my pre-filter, for the outside air, just so I don't become pre-filtered, I'm using a piece of air conditioner filter with a little piece of that carbon stuff. Now this stuff will only get rid of the very large particles, but won't affect my test. There is my negative air pressure box. I invented this, by the way. This is my own creation. You can see how dirty that is. It's just disgusting. All that would be in your lungs throughout your entire apartment. And what happens to the smoke particles from outside, when they get in, a lot of them will just settle on things and could easily be redisturbed very easily and get re-airborne. And this is not a coronavirus test or a COVID virus test, but the particles of smoke are just as small as a coronavirus. So this vacuum indeed will filter out coronavirus, because coronaviruses are basically, when they're not in the droplet, they're like 0.1 of a micron in size. It's going to be a long video. Anyway, I was looking at some other information here. This information is from the University of British Columbia, and it actually shows the relative particle sizes, so you can get an idea of what a micron is. This is the SARS-CoV-2 virus, listed at 0.1 of a micron right here in relative size. This is the human hair, so you can see how small the coronavirus is. Now my HEPA filters will actually capture out particles as small as 0.1 microns and even smaller. Here's a 1 micron particle size. Here's a bacteria at 0.2 compared to the human hair. A red blood cell is 0.8 microns compared to the human hair. Look how much smaller that is. 10 microns. There's a skin cell. Skin cell, 30 microns. Human hair. Anyway, my particle counter will filter, my HEPA filters get anything that's 0.1 micron and even smaller. A real HEPA filter is supposed to be 0.3 microns and larger, 99.97%, but it will actually filter out smaller ones. This laser particle counter is 0.5 microns right here. Half of a micron basically. So the coronavirus is actually a lot smaller than what this thing can read. So are many of the smoke particles, because smoke particles are actually smaller. A lot of them are smaller than 0.1 microns. So this thing right now is only measuring the actual tip of particle pollution. When this thing shows 0, it doesn't necessarily mean there is 0, because a lot of the smoke particles are quite a bit smaller. To measure that, I would need to get an ultrafine particle counter, which are very expensive and beyond what I can afford. As well as an ultrafine particle counter is supposed to be used in laboratories and stuff like that. Just going to watch this number for a bit. So it gives you an idea of how small smoke particles are. But this video is not about coronavirus. I am not an expert on viruses at all. So I'm just doing the test to see how well it gets rid of smoke particles. Viruses are a whole different ballgame. Because if you inhale viruses, they can multiply in your body. If you inhale a smoke particle, well, it's just one, right? One, or actually millions, but here's my current data. And this is pretty good software from the that it comes with here. I can check the time samples. I can go last hour. I can put it to the last 10 minutes. Here's the last 10 minutes of what our concentrations are. So it's holding around 5,000, kind of leveling off. It's actually coming down a bit, 2,500. I'm going to put this to the last 20 minutes. The last 30 minutes. And you can see right here. When did we turn this all on? About 9 o'clock, approximately. Right here. Here's when I was filtering with my HEPA filters down here. Remember, I shut them off for a bit and it spiked. So it's kind of staying consistent right now. And it's staying at under 3,000 particles per cubic foot. So far. Here's the data. Here's 9 o'clock, 2101. 9 o'clock, 5,100, 4,300, 3,100, 3,800, 3,000, 3,000, 3,400. They're actually slightly coming down. So far, I'd have to say that my Meile Vacuum is actually filtering the air out from outside, as well as all the dirt that's in this bag. It's a very well used bag. So far, it's doing a good job. And keep in mind, this is not at the input. It's in the room where I'm breathing. Like, I can move it around and it's the same thing. I don't want to disconnect it here, but it's doing a very good job so far. And considering I'm not moving as much air with this vacuum as these powerful fans does, my positive air pressure And this bedroom is not going to be what it might be with these. So I'm actually using this vacuum to clean the air. This vacuum is actually working as an air cleaner. It's actually really hot. I gotta end this experiment soon. I don't want to burn this out. So I'm trying to make this test as real world as possible. And I wish everybody could afford one of these. I'm not a rich guy, but I spend what money I have on keeping the air clean. It's a great vacuum though. It's easy to use. I love the canister style. Remember, I almost got sucked into selling Kirby vacuums when I was a teenager. Those gigantic old granny vacuums that weighed a million pounds. I don't know how they filtered, but really like these Meile vacuums. Easy to use, pretty durable. This vacuum was about $1,200, I believe, with all the accessories. And believe it or not, I actually bought this vacuum with some of my inheritance money from my dear parents. So I think it was a good investment. And normally I have supplemental air cleaners going too, to keep the air even cleaner. But I turned them off for this experiment, and I got the door shut. I'm not sure how long to let this little experiment go, but never done this before. And when I'm done this test, I'm actually going to take a bullet for everybody, and I'm going to disconnect it and run unfiltered air from outside. Actually, I lied. It's going to be running through this air conditioner filter, so it would still be filtering, but we're going to see how dirty the air gets and how fast it gets. If you were to just open the window or just put a fan in the window. A lot of times in a hot summer day, people would just put a fan in the window or open it. And this is kind of a hobby of mine, air cleaning. I don't do it for a line of work at all. It's not what I do. Maybe I should go into something like that, but this is a Meile S5. I've had it for quite a while. And I know I'm testing the vacuum, and I'm also talking about filtration in general, but I can't say enough about positive air pressure. And I learned that from studying how clean rooms work. Clean rooms that are used for pharmaceutical or manufacturing microchips and the health industry, they use positive and negative air pressure to keep the air clean. And this IQ air clean room is actually shut off right now. Here's what our counts are. The counts are very low, doing an excellent job so far. This is telling me that this vacuum is sealed pretty good. It's sealed very good, because if it wasn't, that microscopic smoke from outside as well as the dirt in the bag would be bypassing the filter. I used to have a Sears Kenmore vacuum, an elegance one that had a make-believe HEPA filter in it, a HEPA type, which isn't even a real HEPA filter. And all the air would some would go through the filter and some would go around the cord. Basically, you don't want a vacuum polluting your air, because you're pulling up concentrated dirt from everywhere, from the floor. And believe it or not, an inferior vacuum is making your air dirtier every time you vacuum it. It's just getting rid of the large stuff and just making clouds of dirt. And it is getting warmer in here, because this thing makes a lot of heat. Now, I don't sell Meile vacuums. I'm happy with it, and I endorse any vacuum that does what it's supposed to. I don't care what brand it is. I'm not biased toward that, but any vacuum that can suck air from the floor or whatever, clean your room without polluting your air, does its job. So that's what my main focus is. So I'm not specifically endorsing Meile. I endorse any vacuum that does what it's supposed to and doesn't pollute your air. But this does seem to be working. Now I've made other videos showing how I make my home air cleaners. And I invented this actually. I got sick and tired of buying air cleaners which have crappy motors in them that start grinding, and they discontinue the filters and leave you with a crappy air cleaner. So I've always thought of my way to just get an inline fan like this, and you just plunk it on top, seal it up with tape or whatever, or you can get a reducer. If you get a reducer, that'll go right to the fan. You can use any size filter that you want, which is a nice thing about it. That way you can look online, buy the biggest filter you can in any model, it doesn't matter. Look for discount filters from any thing and just plunk your fan on top, it'll suck the air through. Another alternative that I have showed in other videos is a box fan and furnace filter. You simply take your furnace filter, you stick it on the back of the fan, and you pull air through. And that will do a pretty good job of cleaning the air. Not as good as a HEPA filter will, but certainly very cheap alternative and very effective at larger particles. A lot better than nothing, because I realize a lot of people can't afford to buy $1,000 air cleaners. And I kind of hate videos that people show that you have to spend a lot of money or a lot of time. So that's why it's not my idea. I've seen other people do it. But a 3M furnace filter will get rid of a lot of it. Very, very good alternative. Or you can get just a standalone machine like this. They're not that expensive. And it will help. What is happening to our air right now? There's our current concentrations. We're going to check the last hour. The last hour of samples is right here. We started at, here's how the air was before I started, nice and clean. Less than 500 per cubic foot. Here is where I turned off my HEPA filters from outside, they spiked a bit. Here's where I turned on the vacuum. You see it's actually coming down. But it's not coming down to the same, quite the same level as the HEPA filters were. And I think the reason for that, one of the reasons for that could be I'm simply not pulling as much air from outside, like I said. I'm not pulling as much air, and my room is not quite as pressurized. The more pressurized you can get your air with clean air, the better. Now, I think I should wrap this up pretty soon because my vacuum is starting to get hot and the room is getting hot. But this is my little creation, the heart of all of my air cleaning here. And I can't do this in the winter time, obviously. Not from outside anyway. This is really dirty air in here. This filter, found in filter box, it's got concentrated dirt, smoke, everything. To make the box, you just get any size box that fits it. You want to have a bit of a gap around the side for airflow. And just cut your hole like that around it. Any box will do. And a lot of air gets sucked in there. To get these fans, you get them online, just any inline centrifugal fan. To make this little guy, just seal up the bottom round HEPA filter with a plastic plate or something. Pop her on, and you're set to go. And these fans will last you forever. This is an Illicent brand fan with a dimmer that I've attached. These things will last years and years and years and years. They'll never wear out. They're actually meant for like ducting and stuff like that. And obviously when I change this thing, it goes outside. I gotta be very careful I never drop this thing. That would be the worst thing in the world if I would have dropped this on the floor. I'd just bomb my whole place with that particulate. Smoky day. And they always advise, like I keep saying, they always advise people to stay indoors when it's smoky outside, but without a HEPA air cleaner, the air is going to be the exact same as it is outside. No different. I don't endorse any one brand of HEPA filter, but these IQ Airs do work pretty good, very expensive. Probably beyond the price of what most people can afford. So the other alternative is get yourself like a Honeywell one, like that, or make yourself a box fan filter. Like so. Here's the Meile S5, still filtering. Current particle counts, very low. When I took this thing outside yesterday, I was getting a reading of like 43,000 on here, which would translate into 4.3 million. Is there a software? Okay, I think that our experiment is going to wrap it up pretty soon because it's going down and down and down actually. It's still going down actually from where we started here. Current particle counts are, this takes an average of the last minute. 1100 particles per cubic foot, 0.5 microns. 200 at PM 2.5. There we go. And I know they measure at PM 2.5 in a lot of the health departments, which is actually fairly large. This thing is actually measuring particles smaller than that. Here's 2.5 microns, here's half a micron. And most counters that people use go to 0.3 microns. I do want to get one. So I think this test is showing me that this vacuum is doing an excellent job. Not just the filter, but the entire unit. Because if it was leaking particulate, if it was leaking particles through the sides and stuff, you would see it on here. We would no doubt have a larger spike than that, for sure. And I like to pull air in from outside in the summer months, summer and fall months. Obviously when it gets cold here in the winter I can't do that. So I just run the air cleaners as a standalone in the winter time, but I can't make holes in my apartment because I don't own it obviously. But another way to create positive air pressure in one room and to have your room very clean, but you could make a hole somewhere in the room in an inconspicuous place. I don't know where. I wouldn't do it here. But you could even make a hole in a closet, for example, and have this whole apparatus in another room and pump that air into that room. That way you're always pumping filtered air into that room, pressurizing it somewhat and keeping the dirty air out. And that goes a long way to making your air clean. Does it help your asthma? I have asthma my whole life. It doesn't actually help the underlying condition of asthma, but what it does is it helps take out particles in the air that are making your asthma worse or aggravating it. If that's kind of my answer to that. It won't help the asthma directly. You still have that underlying autoimmune problem, but it sure helps. I am an avid cyclist, and I've had lung function tests, and my lungs actually, for my age, always score above normal when my asthma's not irritated. Okie doke, I think we're going to stop this test for now. Okay, so here's what our data looks like for the last period of time. Here's my current particle counts. We are still pulling air from outside. Here is what my data looks like for the last while. We started, remember, at, forgive me, I am vision impaired, so just bear with me here. Can't see very well. We started at 9 o'clock about, right? Started right here. Yeah, right here is where we started. And you can see the particle counts are actually coming down. And that is solely due to the Meile Vacuum. That is not even at the input. Here's the air that you're breathing. You can see over the last hour. Here's the last 2 hours. Here's the data to prove it. Okay, now is when we're going to do the other part of the experiment. We're going to take my little apparatus offline and we're going to pump that dirty air from outside into my bedroom and see what happens to the particle counts. Now this is going to dirty up my air real quick, so it's kind of, I'm taking a smoke bullet for you all just to test it. I'm going to shut off the vacuum now with the current particle counts like that. Very low. Very impressed so far with this vacuum filtration. I want to burn out my vacuum, so we're going to shut it off. Shut it off, and we're going to remove it. We're going to remove it, and that vacuum is getting hot. Ooh. Shut off helper fan. Shut off helper fan. Okay, I shut off the helper fan right there, as you can see. I just pumped a big poof of smoke into my place. I guarantee you it's going to show on that counter. Okay, vacuum is turned off. And we're going to see what happens to the particle counts. And I have air cleaners in the other room going. But we're going to see what happens. I guarantee you we're going to show a spike right now. It's going to start coming up. I've done enough tests to see that. The last 10 minutes. Last 30 minutes. I'll put it to the last 10 minutes. Here's going to be the last 10 minutes of air. Consistent. Here's the last count, that the average that it took, 1900. Now watch. We're going to see if this goes up now. Just shutting the windows. We just shut the windows. Windows are closed. No airflow being sucked in. And the door closed. We're going to see what happens to the counts. And they're going to rise. They're definitely going to rise. It might take some time. How long it takes when you shut off the air cleaners and the ventilation totally depends upon on the airflow, what the wind is outside. That makes a big difference to how well my place is sealed at the door, how dirty the air is outside, how good the windows are sealed, how dirty the neighbor's air, if you've got smokers, especially living below you, in the suites below you, that smoke will come into your suite. So if you have neighbors that smoke, you share walls that the building basically breathes. So their cooking smells, even pet dander, for example, like cat dander. If you're allergic to cats and your neighbor's got cats, well, guess what? Some of that cat dander particulate will make its way into your suite. So if you are allergic to cats, for example, and your neighbors have them, some of that cat dander is going to make you sick. And here's my helper fan turned off with some pre-filter in the back. And I have it wired down here to all this. And I have to pull this out when it rains, by the way. And this is what I have also here. This is a ground fault interrupter, a portable one. See that? And that's, if there's any moisture detected, it will disconnect. That's just for safety. For safety reasons, this is a good one actually. It's meant for like power tools and stuff like that that you're using outdoors. Ground fault interrupter, portable. To avoid any fires and stuff in case, you know, it starts raining and I get moisture on this thing right here. Like so. Or if condensation builds up, and say if it's cold outside, that's what that's for. And something else somebody could do, if you just want to keep it simple, you could just run a helper fan like this by itself, independent, with no HEPA filters, and simply use this stuff by itself, and that'll help. I'd be careful of fans like this though, because what's hiding in here is just an inline duct booster fan. However, these use brush type motors in them, which themselves will cause particulate matter, ultrafine particles, to be produced. As it wears out, the little brush rubs on there and dirties up the air. These fans here use brushless motors, so you don't want to do that. Okay. And for this experiment now, I can either open the window, or I can just simply turn this fan on. And I don't want to take apart all of my, I don't want to take this all off right now. I usually only do that when it rains, or if I have to change this thing once a week. Usually I change it, and it's disgusting when I change it. But we're going to turn this on, and it's going to be filtering the air a little bit, but not much. And I'm going to see what it does to the air. Meile Vacuum's turned off. It's happening to our accounts, you can see. Right here. They are slowly going up. Well, it went down there, but they will. Like I said, my room is pretty airtight right now. And the rest of my apartment behind that door, the air is very clean. And that would make a difference as well. And another thing that would make a difference is I use this vacuum quite a bit. And I dust everything. Everything gets dusted regularly with the vacuum. Plus I have the air cleaners going. So there's not a lot of ambient dust around to be stirred up, and that makes a big difference too, how much dust that can be stirred up. And if I wasn't filtering, a lot of these smoke particles would have settled around and been easily stirred up again. So by filtering like this, you're actually preventing your air from getting dirty again. Another interesting thing I did, I have a lot of air cleaner filters. I bought them for cheap online. And I made an actual desk out of my air cleaner filters right here. I was storing them in the closet, and I figured I need another desk. Here we go. I just stacked them up here, put some boards on there, and made myself another desk out of my air cleaner filters. As well as I made a little nightstand. Good way of storing them. Now, just waiting to see what happens to the particle counts. And another thing I would suggest too, if you're going outside during wildfire smoke, wear an N95 mask. That will filter out quite a bit of the stuff outside. People buy them for the coronavirus, but they'll work great for wildfire smoke too if you got to go outside. Avoid using a piece of cotton on your face. I'm actually going to do a video like that showing the effectiveness of N95 masks and cotton masks and stuff like that. I haven't done that so far. I don't really want to change people's view whether they should wear a mask or not. But I think we're going to turn the air flow on from outside and see what happens now. Okay, you can see the counts are slightly going up. 7,300, 5,300. We're going to go the last 1 hour of samples. Here's the last hour. Up here, 9 o'clock. Turned off my HEPA filter. HEPA filter is drawing 150 CFM of air out. Here's where I turned on the Meile Vacuum, and it's kept the particle counts. Not only kept them down, but it was reducing them compared, to that little spike there. It's not doing as well as the HEPA filter is, as the HEPA filter machine was, because I'm not pulling as much air. And I turned all my air cleaners off, and the particle counts are going up, as you can see. So now what we're going to do is we're going to turn on the helper fan right now, and we're going to see what happens when you take air from outside and put it in here. And it's being slightly filtered, but so it would actually even be a little worse without this. what we're gonna do, take a bullet for you all. We're gonna turn on this fan right now. See, now we're pulling 50 CFM of air from outside of that dirty smoky air. We're gonna see what happens to my air now. Okay, this is basically be the same as if you put a fan in a window or simply open the windows. And it is being filtered, that air is being filtered by an air conditioner filter. So actually, really, we're testing the effectiveness of that 3M Filtrete. And this is just that carbon filter. This is that pre-carbon filter that you get with air cleaners. It's supposed to be for odor. So we're actually testing that in a layer of this stuff, because it's behind there. See how well it filters the air. You can see our counts are going up. By doing this, I am dirtying my air, but I'm doing it for everybody. I'm doing it for the sake of science and clean air. We'll watch our graph. We can watch our average right here. What this thing does is it takes an average of the last minute. You can see we turned on the helper fan at 21:38. No, 21:36. There were 7,300, and immediately we see an increase to 10,000, 17,000. Here's the graph. We're going to put it on the 10-minute view. So this test is actually, we're testing multi-things here. We're testing the HEPA filters. Here's the last 10 minutes. I'm going to change our view, and we can go to whatever we want on here. We can go to the last 5 hours if we want. We can leave this thing going all day if we want. This thing can actually download the data. I can leave it going and actually upload it to here, and I can save the files. Here's what's happening right now when I'm venting the outside unfiltered air. 5 hours, that's too much. We're going to go the last, even days. You can go multi-days. Like there, I can set it to several days and it would show what's happening. But we're going to go back down to the last 2 hours. Here's the last 2 hours. And there's a giant spike. The last hour, they're just coming right up, aren't they? Now the particle counts are just going higher and higher and higher. And if I wasn't using that pre-filter, it would even be worse. Okay, what I might do for the rest of this experiment is just open the window, I was thinking. There's the last 10 minutes. It's going higher. 5,300 you can see here. 2,700. So I think this proves my point that the Meile Vacuum actually does what it's supposed to. I don't want to keep polluting my air anymore. Particle counts are just skyrocketing since I since I removed the Meile Vacuum from air filtration. And I think we get the point. The air is going to keep getting dirtier until it reaches what the outside air is. Okay, I'm going to disconnect my software from the computer for now. There we go. That's our graph to prove what we're doing. I'm going to take the particle counter. And we're filtering the air now, but only with that air conditioner filter. There we go. Alright, okay, we're going to turn this HEPA fan off. I think I polluted my air enough. Our HEPA fan's turned off, and you can see the counts are a lot higher. And conclusion to this experiment, the Meile Vacuum works great. It does not pollute your air, it actually cleans your air. And here's the proof of it. We're going to do one last thing. We're going to put this counter on the outside window. Here's the other side of my door. Here's what the particle counts were on the other side of my door. I got other air cleaners going. They're a lot lower. Here's my pride and joy of my bike. Okay. There's my other homemade air cleaner going that I made. This is a real HEPA filter. I'm going to go over here. It's getting dark out. Here's what my counts are. If I would have had my positive air pressure going, it would be lower than they are, but now, let's see what the air quality is outside. And the counts are a lot lower than they were yesterday, way lower. Much lower. The air is much better today because we had some rain. Way lower. In the 5,000 range, which is still high, but nothing like it was yesterday. Yesterday the readings were consistently over 20,000 on here. That rain has soaked down a lot of the particulate matter from the fires. And regardless of the air quality that from outside that I was sucking in, that vacuum bag in the Meile was like full of crap and everything from like 4 or 5 months of vacuuming. So even if I was just venting it by itself, if that vacuum was leaking, it would have done something. There you go. Kind of a neat toy, this particle counter. Really helps make a difference. And when I'm doing positive air pressure and I shut my bedroom door, I can actually feel air coming up the bottom of that door, believe it or not, forcing air out. And the conclusion of my experiment is that this Meile Vacuum does what it's supposed to. Filters the air as a whole and not just the filter. I hope this helps. Any questions or comments, feel free. I know this is not a scientific experiment, but it is my bedroom and it is my safe room. So anyway, happy breathing. If you've got asthma and you can afford it, absolutely get as much air filtration as you can. If you don't have a lot of money, simply get a box fan and a furnace filter and do that gimmick, and it should help you quite a bit. Anyway, dedication of all my air cleaning stuff to my mom, rest her soul, God rest her soul, and my dad.